Oh no, a scary noise.
Alright guys, we're doing something slightly different today. Instead of a review, we're going to check out the tools that I carry with me on a long trip. I've added a few things to my stock toolkit that I carry daily, but this kit is what I carry when I go on a long trip, and it's a lot more tools than what the average person is going to carry. I am responsible for repairs on all of the bikes in the group usually, because that's what I do for a living, so I'm fairly good at it. So let's get this thing open and see what we got in here. Well, I guess first of all, the case itself is whatever that says, SMA case. I don't know, I found it on Amazon. I think it was actually a case for like a DJI Osmo Pocket, or yeah, the Pocket, the little tiny camera. I just saw it online, looked like it would be a good size for my tool case. Measures about 9 inches by 6 inches. I know that's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's about 3.5 inches deep, and it weighs at least 1,000 pounds. This is, like I said, this is not the tools that everybody is going to carry. If you're the designated fixer in your group, you know the struggles. You have the big toolkit. It's heavy. Let's get her open. First thing you see in here, a couple pairs of gloves. I have to get my hands dirty all day, every day. I don't feel like having to scrub my hands when I'm on vacation too. So I carry a few of these to keep chain grease and muck off my hands while I'm on the side of the road. Let's see here. Carry a Sharpie. This one's a Milwaukee Inks All. I like these a little bit more than Sharpies. They kind of, as the name implies, they do write better on just about everything than a Sharpie. And next is my makeshift voltmeter. This is a little battery tender voltmeter, and then I took test leads from an old voltmeter. That opened up. Come on. And I just spliced an SAE plug onto the end of it. So you plug these guys together, and then you just use it like a regular voltmeter, and it'll tell you up to 12 volts. Well, I would imagine it'll go higher than 12. I've never seen higher than like 14, but doesn't do anything fancy. You can't read resistance or amperage, but most of the time all you need to do on a motorcycle, something weird on the side of the road, is just verify, is there power going to this component? And this will do just that. That's really all I was looking to do with the voltmeter in my motorcycle kit, and this was the smallest way I could come up with to accomplish that. Set that off to the side. Then these kind of go with a tool that's buried in here further. I don't even remember what's in this bag. Oh, right. I ride a KTM, so I have Torx fasteners all over my bike. So I have a selection of Torx bits from, I believe my smallest one's a 10, and then I go all the way up to T55. The largest fastener, Torx fastener I could find on my bike was 45. I had a 50 and 55 in the kit, so I just threw them in here anyway, just in case maybe I run into one on somebody else's bike. It's just 2 more bits. It doesn't take up that much extra space. And so this and this are the drivers for the different Torx bits. These are just a standard 1/4 inch, and then a couple of the bigger ones use this bigger it's a 3/8 drive. I don't know what size the hex is, but this one is for driving the bigger bits. So then there's these 3 tools that are in that same bag. That this one's a 1/2 inch drive, this one's a 3/8 drive, and this one's a 1/4 inch drive. And I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but they are hex on the bottom, and then this one, the 1/4 inch, goes to a square drive. So you put this one says 10 millimeter. You put this in a 10 millimeter wrench, and that turns your, assuming it's a ratcheting wrench, turns your 10 millimeter ratcheting wrench into a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. And then they have the quick release button for the socket on the back of each of them. These are awesome because, as you'll see in here further, I carry ratcheting wrenches and I also carry a regular ratchet. So with these, I essentially have 2 ratchets. And you will run into scenarios sometimes where that's helpful. So I figured for the small amount of space they take up, might as well throw them in here too. And then this also came in that same kit. This goes in a 10 millimeter ratcheting wrench, and then it gives you a 1/4 inch hex drive to put like these in. These snap into it. And then you have a low profile ratchet that can drive these too. So now we'll bag these all up. Alright, next tool we've got in here goes with these. And this is a ratcheting screwdriver. This one came from Snap-on. I chose this one in particular, well, truthfully, because I had an extra one from my tools at work, but also because you can put different shanks in here. I've got, like, I'm just going with this one because I had it available right here. This one happens to be a flexible shaft to a 1/4 inch drive. But then you can change that out, and now I've got just the standard long one, and then there's also a stubby one in here somewhere too, but I don't want to tear this all apart yet. And then obviously these go to these bits here. So I've got this is a 1/4 inch drive adapter, and we've got a bunch of different Phillips ones, flatheads, and then a set of metric Allens. And I would also like to put some standard Allens in here too. I just haven't gotten one of those yet. Let's see. Next thing I got in here is the Knipex Pliers wrench. If you've never heard of these before, you definitely need to look into these. These are an awesome tool for a motorcycle toolkit. They can function as pliers. If you need to like bend some sheet metal or something, you get a nice straight grab on there and you can get a really clean bend. But then they're also essentially a crescent wrench, but it's much faster to use than a crescent wrench because you don't have to screw around with the little screw. This is your adjustment. You just push this button and then slide it. And you get a much stronger grab, because if you're using it the right direction, if you need to turn a bolt this way, you're pushing down on the handle. You get a much stronger grab with these than you do with a standard crescent wrench, because the harder you're pushing down on this top lever, the harder this is closing. These, I can't talk these up enough. These are great tools. They come in a few different sizes. This is the 7-inch, I believe. Yeah, it says capacity up to 1 inch, but I'm pretty sure that their different models go by the length, and I'm pretty sure this is the 7-inch model. I also have a larger one at work, and these are just awesome. This will go big enough to do axle, like rear axle nuts, and front if your bike doesn't have a big Allen for that, and plenty strong enough. You can really reef on these things and you're not going to break them. If you need to, you can put a bar over the end and put some extra leverage on there. I love these tools. You got to get one. They're not cheap, as any high quality tool would be. I believe they're made in Germany. Oh yeah, it says right there, made in Germany. You got to get some of these. Next, we've got this bag here. I ordered this from Veterans Back 40 Adventures through Upshift online on their website. You should definitely check those guys out. The project that Veterans Back 40 Adventures is doing is awesome. That I won't pitch that anymore, but definitely go check that out. This bag just has my sockets in it. I've got, well, I'm not going to take all those out, but from 8mm to 17mm. I'm pretty sure I don't skip any sizes in there. And then I was also able to fit, and don't make fun of me, a gator grip socket in there. You can laugh if you really want to. This thing has saved my butt. You know, I don't have all the space to carry standard size sockets as well, so this will do it. It's not pretty, and the people are going to make fun of you when you use one, but when it works, they'll shut their mouth. And that one's a 3/8 drive. I have kind of a and 1/4-inch drive sockets in there. Next, I've got a 6-inch 1/4-inch drive extension, and then a 3-inch 1/4-inch drive extension. And this is my ratchet. This black stuff in the middle is about 3 feet of black duct tape. I think it's Gorilla Tape. And this is a double-ended ratchet. I've got 1/4-inch drive on one end, 3/8 on the other, and it's low profile. This is basically like a ratcheting wrench that just has a insert in it. So it's nice that it's low profile, because number one, it doesn't take up a lot of space in my bag, and sometimes when you work on a bike, you need low profile stuff. The next thing I've got is a stack of different adapters here. I've got a 1/4-inch drive universal joint. Sometimes you need to get at weird angles. Then I've got a 3/8 drive to 1/4-inch drive adapter, so that I can use between my weird ratchet over here or those other weird adapters in this bag, and my different assortment of sockets, I can come up with something to drive a socket. And then I've got a 3/8 drive universal joint. Again, sometimes you got to get a weird angle. And then a 1/4-inch to 3/8 drive adapter, because sometimes you just got to make something work. And then here I have one of those. This is a Pittsburgh. It's from Harbor Freight. It's one of those precision screwdrivers. And I found a bunch of different bits. Oh, great. The rest of them are stuck down in there. This has the metric Allen bits in it, little tiny ones. And then up here I have more of these bits in another container that are small Phillips and flathead, and then some standard Allen and some Torx drive. And those small precision bits, you don't use them very much, but also they don't take up very much space. And I have had need for them in the middle of nowhere before, and it's nice to have them. If you can figure out a way to fit this into your kit, you don't have to have all the bits that I do, but even just a Phillips and a flathead are better than nothing. Another thing, I've actually used this before. I wear contact lenses, but I also bring glasses with me just in case I lose a contact, or I wear them at night before I go to bed. And I lost a screw. Well, I didn't completely lose the screw. It was coming loose. It was about to fall out. And I remembered I had this with me, and I was able to fix my glasses. So nice to have if you got the room for it. Next thing we've got is a 3/8 drive 3-inch extension and a 6-inch extension in 3/8 drive. This thing's kind of cool. I found this at, I think it was at Shields or Cabela's or something, and it's just a little box cutter. Uses the reusable razor blades. Let's see if I can pull that out of there and show you. Yeah. So it uses these, you know, just the typical trapezoid shaped razor blades. And come on. I really like having this around because sometimes you just need a really sharp knife that you're not afraid to mess up, because this blade is replaceable. So what? I scrape it on the ground, I run it across some metal, and I wreck the edge. Well, I can take the blade out and flip it and keep going, and I'm not gonna cry because I just ruined the edge on my, you know, $100, well, I wish my Benchmade was only $100, but the very expensive knife that I carry in my other kits on my bike. So it's nice to have one of these. I picked this one in particular because it's so small. Look at how thin that is. It does have a belt clip on it. You could even make it smaller if I took that off of there. Kind of gimmicky. It's got a Phillips head screwdriver there, and then a flathead and a bottle opener. Never use the screwdrivers. Bottle opener's been useful a couple times. And oh, another thing about this, these blades in particular, the DeWalt carbide edge, that's not a gimmick, I promise you. I've been buying these for a couple years now, since the first time I saw them, and they are amazing. I don't know if anybody out there has any experience with Amsteel rope, that super strong synthetic rope. I have to deal with it all the time in my job, and there was nothing out there that would cut that rope more than once, not even these razor knives. And I found these, and if you don't know about Amsteel, you don't know how incredible this is, but I can cut Amsteel with one of these blades all day long. These things are crazy tough. So when I found this to put in my motorcycle kit, I definitely had to have one of these carbide blades to put in it. So if you're gonna go out and buy razor blades, get these carbide edge ones. I just buy them at Home Depot. They're not that much more expensive. And then it sinks back into itself there. Nice small package. A couple of things fell down in the bottom here. Let's get those out. This is the stubby shank for the screwdriver. And then a 1/4-inch drive shank for the screwdriver. This tool is kind of unnecessary, but I had it, so I figured I'd throw it in here anyway. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. Sometimes it's nice to be able to drive a socket with a screwdriver, so there it is. And last thing I've got in the bottom section of this is some gear wrench, flex head ratcheting wrenches. And I chose the flex heads because they're a little bit more versatile. You know, sometimes you need to get a weird angle on a ratchet, or sometimes you need a flat one, and you don't have the space to carry 2 sets of ratcheting wrenches with you. Most people don't even have the space to carry 1 set of ratcheting wrenches. So I'm getting a little bit cocky in my tools, I guess. But the other reason that I chose these, as you can see, they fold up and get a little bit shorter, so I was able to fit the entire set. This is 8mm to 19mm, no skips. Well, except for 9mm, because nobody needs that. But 8mm to 19mm gear wrench, flex head ratcheting wrenches. Make fun of me if you want to, but like I said, I fix for the group, not just my bike. And you never know what fastener you might run into, so I figured if I could fit the whole kit in here, I was gonna take it. I know most bikes don't need every single one of these wrenches, and you know, maybe up to 19 is a little overkill, but I was able to fit them all in here, so that's where they sit. And last thing we've got is everything in this top pocket. And it's not actually the last thing, because there's a lot of stuff in here. We'll just pull it out one by one. This is just a length, I think it's about 4 feet of just wire, in case you have to make any repairs or splices, or you need to add something or whatever. This is in 2 pieces now because I had to use it. I can't remember exactly why we cut it in half, but somebody had broken a wire to his tail light, and we didn't want to get in trouble for not having a tail light. So instead of trying to figure out exactly where the brake was, I just ran a length of wire from the plug all the way back to the tail light itself, and used that patch of wire to keep us going. I've got a tire pressure gauge in here. My bike has tire pressure monitors on it, but it's nice for other people to be able to check their tire pressure. I added this to my kit way back when I had a bike that didn't have tire pressure monitors, so it's still in here. This is a Master Link, a clip style Master Link for a 520 chain. I've never actually needed one of these, but it seemed like it might be a good idea to have around. I think realistically, if you had an issue where somebody broke a chain, this by itself probably isn't enough to fix the problem, but they're cheap. I got this one for about 13 bucks, I think it was. Not a bad idea to carry one. I need to get one in a 525 for my new bike, but and then we've got what do they call this stuff? Self-fusing tape. It's silicone self-fusing tape. And this is another one of those things that if you've never seen this stuff before, and this is your first time hearing about it, you gotta go check this stuff out and carry some with you. I've personally fixed a few vehicles out in the middle of nowhere with this stuff. One of them in particular, I was out in the middle of the Utah desert, and I came across a guy that was in a Chevy Tahoe, and he had blown a power steering line. Now, it wasn't the pressure line, it was a return, so it's not, this stuff can't fix super high pressure, but you stretch this stuff and then you wrap it around the hose and it fuses to itself. And I was able to get that Tahoe drivable again. It was still, it was still dripping, but it was enough for this guy to make it the 8 hours back to somewhere, to pavement where he could deal with the problem there. And you can buy a roll of this stuff for like $8. I've fixed coolant hoses with it. You can even wrap electrical connections with it. I've used it on cars to wrap up like battery cables that have been rubbing on things, and then they short out on the frame. This stuff is good to, it's like 600 volts with 2 layers. It's great stuff. Oh, this is a good one. I don't really need this for myself anymore, but like I said, I'm responsible for the group, so I carry this. This is a Gear Gremlin cable repair kit. It's got a whole bunch of different little adapter pieces in there, and then this chunk of cable with obviously with no housing. So somebody breaks a clutch cable in the middle of nowhere, you yank the old one out of the housing, leave the housing in place, and then you fish this back down through, and this end of it is soldered so it's not going to fray. So you shove this down through the existing cable housing and make the connections on each end, and you can get out to somewhere that you can deal with the problem properly. It's not a permanent repair, but it'll at least make your bike move again. And you can use it on a throttle cable as well. I've used one of these on a clutch cable before, that's why I use that example. My bike that I have now, I've got electronic throttle and a hydraulic clutch, so this isn't for me, this is for other people in the group. Or if I get a different bike someday, now I got one of these around. I forgot these were in here. I grabbed a couple of these from a gas station. It's just one of those paper fold up funnels. If you happen to stop into, these ones were from a Sinclair. If you happen to stop into a gas station, see if they got any of these and grab a handful of them. It's good to have, especially if you ride a KLR, because you'll be putting oil in that bike. This weird looking little ball of tape is some baling wire that's just coiled up, and then I wrapped it in tape so it wouldn't go all over the place. Cut a hole in the middle of it so you can just grab it and pull out what you need and stuff it back in there so it doesn't snag anything. There's a ton of different things you could do with baling wire. This piece, I think I was able to get 6 feet coiled up this small, and that's enough to deal with a couple of different problems if you run into anything. This is just one of those extendable magnetic pickup tools. I haven't actually had to use it, but I thought it might be a good idea to have. This is the little bits, the rest of the bits for this precision screwdriver. I found that there's a ton of them in there. I'm not going to dump them all out because it makes a mess, but I found this case. I think this was like a travel size Advil case I found at Walmart, and when I used all the painkillers, I repurposed the bottle for this, and I stuffed them in there so they're nice and tight. They don't rattle around in there. Again, one of those tools that if you got the room for it, it's sure nice to have them with you, just in case. This is just some spare bolts. Everybody should have some of those with them. I managed to get all of these by putting aftermarket parts on my bike, and these were the bolts that came off. And then I've also bought, I think I got it from Rocky Mountain ATV, like a spare bolts kit that came with some of the factory specific fasteners for my bike. It's a good idea to keep a few of those with you at all times. I also have some of those in my stock toolkit as well, just in case. And this is the last thing, JB Weld steel stick. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this. It's that 2-part epoxy putty. You just cut off a chunk, knead it together like Play-Doh, and you've got about 5 minutes to work with it and make a repair. You can use it on engine cases. I've never done that myself, but I've seen people, knock a hole in a case and patch it with this. It's at least enough to get you back to pavement or home if you're really lucky. Alright, I've got two other things here that obviously didn't fit in the bag here, the kit, but I do bring with me on longer trips. The first one being a roll of the skinny Gorilla Tape. I think it's 1 inch wide. Great stuff to have with you and doesn't take up a ton of space. You can find somewhere to stash it. I try to keep it close to the toolkit, but it ends up all over the place in my luggage. And then the last thing is this kit here. It's a tire repair kit from Genuine Innovations. I don't think they actually make this product anymore, which is a shame because it's great. It's a CO2 inflator. It's called I believe it's the Monster Air Chuck, and it uses these big 45 gram CO2 cartridges, the threaded ones. You can still find these cartridges, so I'm not sure why they stopped making the tool that goes with them, but it's this hose. So you've got a threaded end to go on the Schrader valve on your bike. You screw that onto your bike and then thread the CO2 cartridge into here. I'm not going to go all the way because it'll puncture it and then you have to use it. But anyway, you can refill a tire after doing a flat repair with these. And one thing that's kind of nice is once you puncture the cartridge, it doesn't just immediately come out. You have to push to get it to flow. So say you end up using this on a bike, it doesn't require the whole cartridge to fill it. You haven't wasted this. It's still usable. It's still held in there. Once you get home though, it'd be a good idea to order another couple of these. And that goes for all CO2 inflators, not just this one. I chose this one though because I own a side-by-side and some four-wheelers, and these bigger ones are enough to fill one of those by themselves. The little 16 gram cartridges, you have to do like 4 of those. And oh, that's right, I forgot. So this kit was just the CO2 tire filler, and then I put, because I run tubeless tires on my bike, I put some tire plugs and the tools to plug the tires in the kit. And I think that's, oh, and then this is a blade to cut off the tire plug once you're done with the job. And that is everything I carry in my bigger toolkit. The kit I take with me when I go on long trips. Like I said at the beginning, this is a lot of stuff. It's way more tools than most people carry. Don't think that everybody needs to carry this many tools. I fixed all the bikes for a group. We kind of, I carry all the tools so that everybody else doesn't have to carry all the tools specifically for them. So some of them can carry, my sleeping bag or my tent to make up for the extra weight of this, because this thing is heavy. It's a nice way to do it. If you have a group of friends that you ride with all the time, you can work something out like this. Or if you're doing a solo trip and you want to be super prepared, this is the kind of stuff you need to take with you. I do also have some short tire levers from Motion Pro that I carry, and if I'm going somewhere, real crazy off-road stuff, which I don't do very often on this big KTM, but I can also carry a tube with me. So even though my bike is tubeless, if I have a real big problem, I can put a tube in it and get out. It's not the right repair, but it is enough to get you home. You kind of have to think about stuff like that on a motorcycle. You're limited. You can't carry everything that you want, but you can carry enough to do the job, at least enough to get you home or to pavement to get on a tow truck. So Anyway, I hope that was at least interesting to watch. I don't want to say helpful. I think anybody's capable of figuring out what tools they want, but if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed, and we'll see you on the next one.